Hey guys, Zach here, and today I want to share with you the 5 fish that I would recommend to any beginner. Now, this list is comprised of fish that I have personally kept myself, and they're all fish that I really love, and they're fish that I have found to be not too difficult to take care of, and fish that any beginner I think would be very happy to have as their first fish. Starting off our list is going to be a fish that is actually pretty common, and it is going to be guppies. Guppies are on this list for a couple of different reasons. The first being that they are just extremely hardy. Guppies are, I would say, one of the hardiest fish, and they can survive in a very wide variety of different water parameters. I've even kept guppies in 2 complete polar opposite parameters, and they have thrived in both tanks. So this fish is really good for any new keepers out there who just aren't testing their water and aren't too sure about their water parameters. I would definitely recommend guppies for that reason. They can live in a lot of different water parameters. The second reason why guppies are on this list is because of just how colorful they are. With how extensive guppies are in this hobby, you have such a wide range of colors and varieties to choose from with guppies that you're not gonna get 2 fish that are the same if you're picking through guppies. And even the common varieties that you're gonna find at most pet stores are going to be different from their neighbors, and no 2 guppies are the same, which makes them a great choice for beginners if you want that variation in color, but you want to keep one species of fish. The third reason why guppies are on this list is because they are probably one of the easiest fish to breed, right? As live bearers, there's not much that you have to do in order to breed guppies, and as a beginner fish keeper, you want to be able to breed fish in your tanks, because then you know that in some capacity or another with your tank you have succeeded. I know for myself, when I was able to actually start breeding fish in my tanks, I was super happy, and it gave me a big confidence boost moving forward with future fish. And being able to breed in your tank just gives you that confidence boost, and you can kind of take steps forward and take what you've done right with that tank to succeed even further with any future fish that you do have. The second fish on this list is another very common fish, and that is going to be the betta fish. The betta fish is again on this list for a couple of different reasons. The first reason is that they can be kept in relatively small tanks. Now, I'm not saying small little bowls that they're marketing as betta bowls or those little cups that they come in. No, you do need to keep them in, I would say, at least a 5-gallon, and your betta fish will be very happy, but that is still a relatively small tank compared to some other tanks. Like if you have guppies, you're probably going to want to go a little bit bigger, especially if you're planning to breed them. But with a betta, you can keep them in a 5-gallon pretty comfortably by themselves, and that can be something that's pretty good, especially if you want to save on a little bit of space and you decide to go with a smaller tank. Now, the second reason why I put betta fish on this list, and really the whole driving factor for them being on this list, is that every betta fish has different personalities. Now, what I mean by this is that generally, when you have a type of fish, they're going to be pretty similar from fish to fish to fish in their habits, but I have found that bettas just are not like this at all. I have kept a couple different bettas over a couple different years, and I have found that they each like specific things and don't like other things. So an example would be, some tanks I can have a betta with shrimp in there, and they're perfectly fine and they'll coexist, but in other tanks I'll have a betta in there and he will just destroy the shrimp, and I'll have to remove whatever shrimp I can before he eats them. And just little things like that really make a big difference, because even the way that the betta carries themselves around or where they decide to sit in the tank, it's all small habits that you can pick up on as the fish keeper, and it keeps you interested in the tank and in the fish itself. And these different habits are really good because as a fish keeper starting out, you're going to want to observe them and learn from them, so that if you do decide to maybe do a rescape, you can cater to your fish's needs, and it's a very good learning experience. Third on my list is going to be white cloud mountain minnows. The minnows, though not as colorful as some other fish, are a nice silver with a white stripe right down the middle, with beautiful red fins that really do pop once the fish starts to get comfortable. The minnows also are a schooling fish, which means they are grouped up most of the time, and that school can look really, really good depending on the size. Obviously, if you have a smaller school, they won't be as tight, and as they get more comfortable, they may end up dispersing and sort of going off on their own in a tank, which is perfectly fine, but these fish really look great. And one really good thing about them for you beginners out there is that they are a cold water fish, which means they can be kept at lower temperatures than every other fish on this list, which means they are comfortable in about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, as low as that, which means you don't need a heater for your tank, and you can just keep the tank at room temperature. So if that's something you're interested in, keeping your tank maybe a little lower tech, then you should consider White Cloud Mountain Minnows for your first aquarium. One small downside, however, that I do want to share with you guys about keeping a cold water tank with something like the White Cloud Mountain Minnow is that in a cold water tank, your plants are not going to grow as fast in a normal tank. If you're keeping your water around 60 to 65 versus maybe 80, the plants in the 80-degree tank are going to grow a little bit faster than the plants in the 60-degree tank. So if you're going to go for more of a jungle-style tank, then you're going to want to keep it a little bit warmer instead of a little bit colder, and that'll just help the plants to grow a little bit faster. For your first setup, if you want to go more for a jungle style tank that's got lots of plants growing everywhere and they're just going crazy, then you might want to consider tetras as your first fish. With tetra, there are a variety of different types to choose from, and it's really going to come down to personal preference with which ones you do decide to keep. It also is going to be determined by the size of your tank. If you have a smaller tank, you're probably not going to keep something like Congo tetras, which do need a little bit larger of a tank, especially when you get a school of them. And you might want to consider something like the Neon Tetra, which is a classic in the hobby. Tetras are also a good option if you are considering going with a community tank, as they are non-aggressive fish species and they also do school, so they get along with all of the other inhabitants in the tank. Me personally, I have kept them with a large variety of fish and I have never had a problem with the tetras. And the schooling also draws out any other fish that might be hiding in the background, and they act as an excellent dither fish. The final fish on my list is going to be the cory catfish. The first reason why I really like cory cats is because of how much they scavenge around the bottom of the tank. As they go around and they hoover up all the little bits of what could be leftover food that has fallen to the bottom, it does help you, the keeper, as they're helping you to just keep the tank a little bit cleaner, so it does keep your maintenance a little bit lower, and they just make a great addition to the aquarium. The second reason why I really do love cories is that they are diurnal, which means that they are mostly active during the day. Now, as a fish keeper, this is a fairly big deal because you're going to be doing most of your work on your tanks during the day, or at least when your aquarium lights are on. So when you are looking at your aquarium, you want to be able to interact with the fish that are inside your aquarium, be it for feeding or even just to observe their health to make sure that nothing's really wrong. And picking a catfish that is diurnal, I found, is very helpful so that you are interacting with that fish and not just speculating and having them hide during the day and then come out at night and just being worried about the fish's health. So for that reason, I really do love cories. One factor to consider if you are thinking about cories is that you are actually limited in your substrate choices if you decide to keep cories, because you don't want to have anything that is too sharp, because a substrate that is sharp will cut up the underside of your cories, which can lead to health implications, and you want to stay with something a bit smoother, either a sand or a fine rounded gravel. So just keep that in mind if you are going to keep the cories. So that is everything for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this video helps you in deciding on which fish to keep. If you have enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.